Welcome back to the Dana Cast. I'm Dana and this is Hannah.
Thank you for tuning in to our second podcast episode. We're super happy to be back. We had a really good response to our first episode, so we're really excited to get into the topics we have for today. We are going to be talking about some LGBTQ news today. Mm-hmm. We have 3 different stories that all surround that topic, and we've got a lot to say about it. So
yes, we do.
Go ahead, grab a cup of coffee or
snack. Chipotle.
Yeah,
is what we wanted.
We have Chipotle. They don't have Chipotle in East Tennessee. Anyways. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
The first story
Dana found for us today.
Found it on I was just looking up stories and I found it on the Washington Post website.
Yeah.
And it's about the firing of a gay Catholic school teacher. Well, at the time he was a teacher for a decade, and then at this point he was in retirement, so he was a substitute teacher. So
he was actually fired in 2014, right?
Yeah.
That was, so basically he posted about his engagement to a man, and then he was fired shortly thereafter, and he sued the school and won in 2021.
Yeah.
But now, after last month's Supreme Court ruling, 303 Creative, which, if you don't know, it was in favor of a web designer who basically, she didn't want to work for gay couples.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court ruled in her favor. So after that, a nonprofit organization is challenging this decision that occurred in 2021 in relation to that gay Catholic teacher who was fired. Saying that this 303 Creative ruling provides new precedents in support of the Catholic school, which is really cool, and I'm excited to see sort of where that goes. Yeah. I think it said the hearing is going to be in September.
Yeah. But okay, first of all, which I want to ask your opinion.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about this, any of our comments, so who knows if we agree or disagree, but I think it's ridiculous that they even won when they sued. I feel like that's so messed up. And there was a story actually, I forget how long ago, but about I think it was a bakery, I don't know if you heard about that, that didn't want to make a cake for a gay couple.
Right.
And to me, that is so sad that you would sue them, and the fact that you won, seeing how that's their preference, that's what they choose, especially a Catholic school who disagrees with that. You're going to be teaching those children. It's a religious school.
Right.
And then, I was reading down for the rest of that article, it was saying that he was upset because, he wants to be able to have a picture up of him and his husband and be able to talk about his husband to his kids and all those things. So it's like, you're at a Catholic school. I feel like if you wanted to do that, go to a public school. Personally, I don't agree with doing that at all.
Yeah.
I don't think that should be allowed at all in any school. But if there was a public school and you sued and you won, okay, you whatever.
Right.
But a religious school, that to me, that's just not right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess my mom always had this saying that freedom isn't free, and I used to hate when she would say that. But it applies to so many things. And, well, yes, you're free to be gay, you're free to get married.
Yeah.
In America, at least, that is. And that's it. That's their freedom. But that doesn't mean that you're free to then impose those beliefs on everybody else, especially, you know, when it comes to the Catholics, they've held their beliefs for, you know, over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So to say that, you know, people are paying a lot of money to send their kids to a Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a private school, again, it's not even public.
Yeah.
You know, I would expect if I was paying money to send my kid to a Catholic school and I'm Catholic, that school would have representatives which uphold my faith, which would be the main reason I assume you're sending them there.
Exactly.
So, again, why would you even sue, especially given that he was somewhat, semi-retired, he was a substitute teacher. You know, is it really, it's just crazy that he even sued at all. Obviously, somebody was probably paying for that, not him.
Yeah. Okay, honestly, here's what I think. All of our stories, like you said, relate to LGBTQ. I think that, honestly, the gays, that community, that when it's situations like this, they've seen it done before, where, oh, it's hate, you're hating on me, you're putting my community down, and all those things, and you're racist, and you're this. And so they're like, I get some money and get publicity.
Exactly.
And that's what I think it is. Why it's like,
exactly
let's just sue. I'm a substitute teacher and I'm retired, and you fired me because you're a Catholic school and you don't want your teachers not on the same page as what you believe as a school. That literally just makes sense. And then you sue and win. I think it was just to get money and publicity.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just. But it will be interesting to see now that this 303 Creative Supreme Court ruling, you know, has gone through, how many other cases like this will be reopened and possibly overturned in favor of, you know, businesses or Catholic schools or individuals who, you know, who don't agree with employing or serving people who, you know, violate their beliefs.
Yeah. I think it's solely based off that. Like, I had this discussion one time, I think it was in high school or something, and it was, you know, I had that standpoint of your business, you're able to decide if you don't want gay people, whatever, you don't want gay people, lesbian, whatever it is, into your business or to serve those people.
Right.
Like, if we had our own business, I can say, unfortunately, obviously you're not going to be mean, and obviously because we don't stand by that as Christians, that's not something we're about. We love everyone the same, whether you're gay, black, yellow, purple, transgender, non-binary, whatever it is. We don't accept your sin and we don't agree with your sin. But that doesn't mean we're going to hate you and racist and all of this stuff just because you are. That just means that because of our beliefs, we choose personally not to service you or make you a gay cake or web design. I forget what she did, but whatever it was.
Right.
Like, I can choose not to do that. I don't agree with that.
Right.
And that's okay. I think what's wrong, and this was a point that someone like came back at me and said, was that, okay, what about businesses that say they don't want to hire or do business for black people or brown people? And I'm like,
it's totally different.
That's different. And we base our opinion off, I base my opinion off, and most of us do, off of the Bible. Nowhere in the Bible does it say being black, brown, or white, or yellow is wrong. No, God all created us that. All these different colors and based off where we live and everything.
Right.
So I think but the Bible does say that it's wrong and a sin to be with the same sex. And that's what the religious belief comes off. Yeah, I'm not gonna say, I mean, if you got someone that's saying their religious belief is not to allow black people or brown people or white people even into their place because of the religious beliefs, that's just baloney. It's not a religious belief, I don't think. I don't think that can be a belief, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
So that's where I
Well,
stand.
that's not what we're seeing, and if that is something we were seeing, we'd have to address that on its own basis.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things people love to do in arguments, or not even arguments, debates, really, about this topic, is they like to throw in other. Well, what if this happened? Then what would your opinion be? Trying to kind of degrade and imply that you're immoral.
Yeah.
Because what if this happened? But it's just irrelevant.
Yeah.
And when you're having a debate, you just have to focus on what you're talking about.
With the specific point.
Yeah.
Not go off into well this and then this and then you're like, wait, but I'm answering your first question.
Yeah.
Now you're
So you just can't even engage when that's the case.
Yeah, exactly.
So be interested to see what happens with that. How many other court cases this is going to affect. Hopefully we will see more freedom for everyone, really. But again, in terms of for the LGBTQ people who are feeling, that their freedoms are being infringed upon, I would just ask, are they really, or because
I think,
or are you the one who's trying to infringe on somebody else's freedom?
Exactly. Ooh, exactly.
Yeah, which kind of, I guess, leads into the next one, which is the next news story we have, which is that a Kansas judge blocked trans people from changing their gender marker on their driver's license. I'm surprised this was even allowed to begin with. Because I can think of so many reasons why it would be important to have your biological sex on your ID card. But I actually had a funny story relating to this.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live in Las Vegas, and when I worked there, I worked just briefly. I worked as a marketer for a tobacco company. I won't say which one, but I worked as a marketer, and part of my job there is me and a partner would go from bar to bar, like on Friday and Saturday nights, and we would give out coupons for cigarettes and vape pens and little nicotine pouches and stuff to people who were already using, like, say they were smoking a cigarette or something. Then we could approach them, and ask for their ID and then give them coupons. And so part of that whole process was asking for their IDs. Well, we would always go to a few gay bars, inevitably, and every single time I would ask for the ID from a gay person or a trans person. They would always be so embarrassed, and a lot of them would be like, oh no, it's fine, I don't want the coupon, because they weren't willing to show me their ID. And one time, I remember this guy said that, fine, here's my ID, you can scan it, but don't look at my dead name or my gender that they assigned me at birth.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I actually think that it's probably somewhat of a good thing for these alphabet people to have sort of a reality check, like when they're going to buy alcohol or they get pulled over, or, you have to use your ID in various situations as an adult, especially over 21. I think it's probably actually a good thing for them to have that sort of reality baseline that they have to check in with every once in a while, and just kind of a reminder to them, because it is, nowadays, so many of them, they just get in these groups where all their friends, everyone they interact with sort of engages and, what's the word? enables their delusion.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that aside, that me thinking that'd be a good thing for them aside, I think this also kind of touches on the main argument which garnered Jordan Peterson some fame initially, which is that, you know, you're free to be whoever you want and all of that, but as soon as you start dictating what others call you, you know, what language other people use, you know, we have a problem. There has to be some reality baseline for everybody, and yeah, a driver's license is certainly a good example of that. But this, you know, this even kind of goes into the issue of pronouns as well, which, you know, you just can't, again, freedom isn't free. You know, you can call yourself whatever you want, but you can't control what other people call you.
Can't impose and like try to force people like,
yeah,
use my pronouns.
I mean, the reality is this too. Say there was some crazy person on the street who wanted to always call me some crazy name like Mr. or something. I don't even know, but or Dolphin or whatever. They're crazy and they view me as Mr. Dolphin, and that's what they always refer to me as. There would be nothing legally I could do to have that person call me anything different. That's his language.
Yeah.
And his right to speak the words that he wants, even if it bothers me.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's not what obviously most people would view me as and call me.
Yeah.
Like,
I think, especially with how you see someone is how you're going to call them. If you see someone, we're not actively going around purposely, like, not trying to whatever, but if you see someone who looks like a man, you're going to call him a man or a woman.
Actually, nicknames would be a good example of this. I mean, I'm sure we've all had nicknames that when we were children we didn't like being called.
Yeah.
I don't care now, but when I was a kid, for some reason it bothered me. People would call me Hannah Banana. And I don't know why, but I didn't like that. I just liked Hannah. And it used to bother me so much, but it's not like there was anything I could do about it. So I just kind of moved on. I never...
Yeah. I think too, like you said, you can call yourself whatever you want yourself. You want to identify as something, a tiger, a cat, non-binary, whatever these different names you have. That's fine. That's your life, and that's between you and God. Ultimately, if you don't believe that it's between you and God, it in reality is between you and God. But it's when you, like you said, when you start forcing and trying to impose it on others, like I was watching this video one time, and it was like they want to consider it hate speech if you call them something other than what they're wanting to identify as or be called.
Right.
And the fact that they're trying to get that considered hate speech where you can actually be in prison for doing so is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think that's insanity. I think it's wrong and completely messed up. I don't think you should be forcing people to call you whatever you want to be called or identified as.
Right.
So pronouns, I mean, I think that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, especially to the point of government documents. I mean, you just...
like, how would you even... So what are they, on their driver's license, they'd be listed as non-binary?
Yeah,
or quadruple binary, or like whatever.
Or if they're a male who's trying to be a female, they would say female. But again, like that could be proved to be so problematic. And the purpose of a driver's license is to identify somebody. And you know, a lot of these trans people, some of them do really look like we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Some of them do look like a female or a male, you know, what they're wanting to go by. But the reality is there's also a lot of them that don't. that you can very clearly tell their biological sex.
Yeah.
And so, again, the purpose of an ID is to actually identify somebody, so, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And like, especially, like you said, it can cause so many problems, like even medically. Like if you had
a car accident.
Yeah, and you're like, and say you've even like had the surgery and everything, but everything else is the same. Like, and I'm not a physician or some medical expert, but I know and I've seen videos about like that can cause complications.
Yeah, there just needs to be, it's right up there, you're right, with medical, doctors patients filling out their paperwork that they're the gender they think they are, but aren't really on their paperwork, to a doctor, because it's, like, this is real life.
Yeah.
This isn't part of the...
Like you said, I believe it's a mental health.
This isn't part of the delirium that you're in, like doctors and police officers, and they need to know the truth.
Yeah. And there's only two choices.
Yeah.
That's male or female.
Well, there's only one choice for everybody, really.
Oh, yeah. For
each person, there's only one. There's not even a choice. There's just one.
You are what God created you. Whether
So,
that's male or female, you can only be male or female, and it's whatever God created you with. What they assigned you at birth. That's what God made you, how God made you, and you're supposed to be that way.
Yeah. And I think that, in general, the LGBTQ, I'm going to say, mental health issues that exist, delirium, trying to separate yourself from what God created you to be. That's just, again, we're not trying to pick on LGBTQ people. I could think of so many, what I would say are symptoms of this greater problem in which humans try to separate themselves from what God has designed for their life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just one example, one symptom of a larger disease that we see in our culture, in our society, and so, again, I'm not trying to pick on them. We do love everybody, LGBTQ people, of course we love you, and if any of you are watching this, I would just say to you that, I just pray that you come to appreciate the beauty that God designed for you in your life, and not try to mess that up.
Yeah.
Because, I've tried... Dana and I both, we've messed our lives up in other ways, not in this, this way, but, there's so many ways in which we, again, as humans, we can either choose to go on the path that God has set out for our lives, which is beautiful and wonderful and, part of his plan, or we can choose to deviate from that, and when we choose to deviate from that, it always makes your life harder.
And it leads to destruction.
Yeah.
And you think, like, and of course there's people who, obviously gay and lesbian and all that stuff, and then you have people that transition and those things. And there's a lot of folks, not all of them, I know there's people that don't, but that regret doing that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Making that transition. Because all this is under kind of like an umbrella, whether there's transgenders, gay, it's all under an umbrella, and I think that
it is. Yeah.
I feel like it's extremely sad, and like we said, we love everyone, and we're not here to shame or do anything like that. We are here to point out that what we disagree with when it comes to being pushed on others and how we disagree with that, but then also with our beliefs, that how we believe it is wrong and is a sin. Not that we love you less. Every sin is bad. Whether you're
we hate sin.
We hate sin in general. We hate our own sin.
Oh yeah.
And that's why we have the Lord in our lives, and we have to ask for repentance daily because we do sin, and it's all bad. Whether it's you're choosing to be gay, whether it's choosing to murder someone, whether it's choosing to lie
or gossip,
or even whatever it is.
Yeah.
So just want to reiterate
blasphemy
that.
God, which
yeah,
that's
a big one too.
Unfortunately, a lot sin begets sin. So, if you're participating in one sin, it usually leads to another and another and another, and it's rather than turning away from that and every day turning away. That's why oftentimes we do see so much. There are so many things with this ideology that we disagree with, because it's not just the homosexuality that we view as sinful, it's the blasphemy of God. It's it's a lot of things they do. The nudity, the just sexual impurity in general. Indecency. It's very rarely do you see a gay couple who is, more private about their sex life.
Yeah.
And that's what we see, at these pride parades and stuff. It's just all in your face. And I would have an issue with that if it was straight people too.
Yeah, there's a whole movement about...
But again, it's the sin begets sin. Yeah. And so it's just, they're participating in one sin, they don't think the next is that bad, and they don't think the next is that bad.
Yeah. And it's just a snowball.
It's a snowball, yeah. So anyways, there's my little spiel about that.
And kind of lead into our next topic here. I was thinking about like you said, the parades and stuff, how they just output it there. And I even saw one parade where it was all the women had no bra on. And they were just I forget what that whole movement was, but anyways, that was the case. But it kind of leads into our next topic here. My next point about the teachers union.
Yes.
And everything with that. I'll have you.
Do you want me to start? Okay.
Yeah, you start with that.
So, basically, the nation's biggest teachers union, what was it called?
NEA.
NEA.
Yeah.
National Education Association, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, they met in Florida to share their list of summer reads for educators, which included the controversial White Fragility as well as Genderqueer, under the categories Books to Celebrate or Understand Juneteenth, and Banned Books Celebrate the Freedom to Read. The president said that they wanted to meet in Florida because it's, quote, our ground zero for shameful, racist, homophobic, misogynistic, xenophobic rhetoric and dangerous actions. They also said, from book bans and censorship of honest history to the removal and rejection of Black, LGBTQIA+, and minority students' existence and experiences, MAGA lawmakers have used culture wars to divide communities and enact schemes that drain resources from public education. I just find that so interesting because as you were reading, tell them about the resources for education, how much money they spent on.
It's insanity. Yeah, I'll read it here. It says the biggest ticket item was a measure for the NEA to mobilize against legislative attacks on the LGBTQ plus community, providing professional development on using pronouns and supporting transgender students, among other areas, and strengthening contract protections for LGBTQ plus educators. That measure cost more than $580,000. They spent over they spent over 1.2 million on new business items, but that was the biggest area that they spent money in. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So
just to say the least, that sums it up.
I would just like to point that out because they were saying that, MAGA lawmakers, which is such a funny way to reference Republicans, but anyways, are enacting schemes that drain resources from public education, yet it's that's what they're referring to.
Yeah.
That's what they consider, draining, that MAGA Republicans are draining from the public system, is they're not willing to spend money on pronoun education.
That is the stupidest thing. I'm so sorry. This topic gets me.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, also, those books, The White Fragility and Gender Queer, that Gender Queer book is the one, I'm sure you've seen, pictures of it go around, but it does, illustrate and describe how to perform, oral sex, and, it's really graphic and inappropriate for children. Or
extremely
any
inappropriate.
age.
Yeah, that's...
I felt uncomfortable reading it.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yeah, so that, and then the White Fragility book. I'll be honest, I haven't read either of them in their entirety, but from my understanding, the White Fragility book was written to help white people understand why they're the problem. And how to better talk to and relate to Black people. And again, I don't think that's necessary. And
no, it's not. I think it's crazy here. I was gonna pull up a point. I forget where it went. But it goes back to kind of, this is how I was going to relate my last point that I wanted to share to this topic about the teachers union, was about how they're out broadcasting what they think and sharing their boobs and writing in books how to give oral sex and all this different crap, that they're imposing not only, us as adults, but our children. Throwing it in children's faces. That's why they're trying to make it where it's okay for drag queens to go in and read books to elementary kids.
Right.
And these books that they have in for elementary kids, middle school kids, that is so infuriating and totally not the place, nor the things that we want our kids to be hearing and listening to.
Right.
And being exposed to.
Right.
We want to, as parents, which I'm not a parent, Hannah is soon to be a parent, but obviously we have sisters and everyone around us that is parent, and we were kids once, and we know how what we were exposed to as kids affected us. And that is not something you want your kids exposed to, and their mind to even go there to what's a drag queen or what? That is just insanity. And so I feel like that just pleases the Lord in general, because it even says, and I can put the scripture on top of the screen because I don't know it verbatim right now, but it talks about anyone who leads astray children, you're better off tying I forget the word, but it's a bowler to your neck and dropping it off in the sea. Yeah. That's a serious thing with the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're called to raise our children up in His ways, and, that's honestly these sort of surface political disagreements about teachers and school is the least of the reasons not to send your kids to public school.
Yeah.
But it's definitely up there, because it's if at least the kids we could know that they were only learning math, science, history, English, the subjects they're supposed to be learning in school. If at least we knew that was all they're being educated on while they went there, then it might be worth sending them. Yeah. But, that's just not even the case now. You have to worry about, how would you even know if your kid's teacher had attended this union meeting and read these books? I mean, you'd have no idea.
Yeah, what they're...
So, I mean, even if you were in Florida and you thought your kid was safe to go to school because they've done a better job of enacting policies to protect kids there, the teachers could still attend these union meetings and be given this information and be indoctrinated to teach that to kids. And again, that would be a reason to maybe send your kid to Catholic school, but then
who knows, you'll probably... I think both of our standpoints, which can be another topic, but is to homeschool, if you can, which obviously that's not available to everyone, but...
Right.
That's just hard to have to deal with the fact that knowing you're sending your child to these schools, and that's why ultimately we have to leave it up in God's hands and just pray for our children. Because...
But also look at, like, the reasons why you would be choosing not to homeschool, and are those reasons not something that God could take care of? I don't know.
Yeah, which could be another topic too, about trusting in the Lord.
Another topic, trusting in the Lord
regards
when it
to
comes to
our lives,
parenting, all of that. But definitely a reason neither of us will be sending our children to public school.
Yes.
And we are, designing our lives such that we can homeschool our children. But
I wanted to say too, like, another one of the policies, I guess, is it says right here, including access to gender-affirming care for school employees, and then also, where did it say? Promote and facilitate programs that address LGBTQ, youth homelessness, suicide, gender-affirming care, cultural...
By gender-affirming care, they mean mutilation.
Yeah, mutilation. And then
for children.
Insanity, that they can choose to mutilate themselves. And then also, for... Oh my gosh, I'm completely... The bathroom situation... Can't think of the word, where they just allow you to go whatever bathroom you want. That's a scary fact, or a scary thing to implement into our schools. With obviously, this whole thing, anyways, is sexual, under the umbrella of sexual immorality, and that just leads for more room for bad things to happen to your children. Because even though they're kids, I mean, even the employees can go into these, if they want to say they're transgender, you can have a male teacher go into the locker room to use the bathroom. Yeah, change and all these things. How unsafe. You're wanting to affirm your belief of being gay and just kind of support you in that. That is higher for them than the protection of children over pedophiles, creepos.
Well, again, it's
and all kinds of stuff.
Sin begets sin.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the devil, is like his, the Bible lays out the devil's goals pretty clearly, and ultimately it's death, which I would argue, that sterilizing people leads to death, because if you can't have children, think of, and not to mention also being sterilized creates a host of health effects for the person who's sterilized as well. But all of this, it's kind of so black and white in terms of, especially if you're a Christian, kind of seeing what life choices, what beliefs you can have that will support and lead to life versus ones that lead to death.
Yeah.
And it ultimately always goes there. It always goes there with sin.
Yeah.
Like, that's what sin, in its worst case scenario, always could lead to death.
Yeah. Exactly. I was pulling up another point here. Which I don't know where it's at, but this is kind of a little. Our last podcast, we kind of did it. We went briefly into Biden, so this is a little poke at Biden.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, go ahead.
It was the NEA delegates were asked to vote in a secret ballot on whether the union should endorse Biden in the general presidential election next year. And this tells you everything you need to know. About 84% voted yes.
There you go.
The fact that they would
there you go.
vote for Biden, are you kidding? That just tells you everything you need to know.
Everything you need to know right there.
It's crazy. It shows you how, because of all the crap he's done, and obviously he's delusional and all these things, and it's just crazy. And I thought that was a crazy number that that's high.
Yeah,
4%.
That's really high.
They have over how many members? I don't know a lot. I think over 2 million? Something like that. I don't know. But it's a lot.
Yeah.
And
teachers.
Yeah. 84%.
Well, that we do know this, that teachers tend to be more liberal. It tends to just be a liberal profession. Different professions tend to have kind of sway one way or the other in terms of their political leanings.
Yeah.
And teachers tend to lean more liberal, which is just, there's a lot of theories as to why that is. It's predominantly a female-dominated profession.
Yeah.
And most, especially single females, are liberal.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
so it's just the way it is.
It's sad. I see here it says the NEA says it will have about 2.3 million full-time equivalent members. So
that's a lot. That's a lot of these people who think this way, who support this stuff, who are teachers in our schools. And to think that too, it's not like each one of those teachers just has one student in their classroom. They probably have anywhere from 15 to 30 students, or 45 even. Yeah. I know some classes.
And that's each class. And it depends,
yeah.
I know schools do it differently, but even
how many classes they have.
Yeah.
So, you could see how a union like this would have a relatively big effect. But honestly, I don't even think the union needs to do anything. These people would think and believe all of this without them, regardless.
Yeah.
They're on social media. They're on a roll,
Yeah.
We all seen the people. We all know a teacher who's
Yeah.
on social media and they post these things, and you're just, oh my goodness, they're teaching the children. This is so scary.
Yeah. They're probably teaching them, especially a teacher that is either transgender or non-binary, are probably imposing that. That's a whole other thing. But there's so much in this umbrella, and it's all just so ridiculous and sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's sad that we went from prayer to that being horrible and taking it out of schools to now having how to perform oral sex and use my pronouns correctly, and spending so much money into implement those policies.
Right. Well, and one could say too that the opposite beliefs are not found in schools, being espoused by teachers as much. And at least if there was some more balance,
Yeah.
maybe that'd be a good thing. But ultimately, again, I just wouldn't send my kids there, and
Nope. Never, because it's just gonna, in my opinion, I feel like it's just gonna keep getting worse.
probably, yeah.
So, and I don't have kids now, so definitely I wouldn't send them now, and I won't send them later. So, not gonna happen.
Exactly.
But that's the good thing. Like, if you find, for people that want to find others who believe the same way, like maybe like me and Hannah, the good thing is we can do homeschooling together.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the nice thing, is because your children are able to see other children that aren't related to them and have different academic
there's so
approaches.
many, if you're thinking about homeschooling or anything like that, there's so many good resources out there and so many studies that show that, homeschool students are so far ahead of public school students in really every academic marker, especially post-COVID, which actually that one article had mentioned, the Fox News article about the teacher union meeting, that, they really should have been discussing how to get kids back on track academically post-pandemic, because so many children are behind after, they had to go to remote learning and they were wearing the masks and all of that, and the teachers just, a lot of them just decided that basically they don't want to work because they're afraid of getting COVID.
Yeah.
And which I just find, obviously, I don't even know if we want to talk about that, but
Yeah, to each his own.
yeah.
It's just wild though, and that's funny you just brought that up, because as soon as you said that, it triggered me reading that they're more focused on spending so much money and time, like the president, how she said that whole racist, homo, whatever. They're spending so much time and money wanting to implement these policies to help with your pronouns, rather than use all that $580,000 to get the kids back on track, because it was saying that they're really behind, especially in math and reading.
Oh yeah, and
post-pandemic.
And I think pandemic or not, our public schools are behind.
Yeah.
Like here in Tennessee, I was shocked because I'm from Arizona. That's where I went to public schools. I did go to a private school briefly too, but most of my education was public. Anyways, and I had always heard that Arizona was like number 50 in education. It was really low.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But then I moved out here to Tennessee, and I know some teachers. We have some friends who are teachers out here, and a lot of these kids, are graduating. They still don't know how to read.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, what the teachers have told me is that, they just, even if they fail them, they'll go to summer school, but then the summer school's teacher doesn't fail them, so they always get passed to the next grade.
Yeah.
And they just are not learning simple things like how to read.
Yeah.
And, again, I'm not necessarily saying that's the school's problem. I do overall think that parents are responsible for their own children's education. And, you need to be checking in on your child and how well they're doing. And that can be, that's like statistically true. That's why we see that Asians tend to have the highest test scores and all of that. And they, that's why they get into the Ivy League schools the most and all of that. It's not because necessarily, Asians are so much smarter than other races. It's because they have a culture in the parents, it's very important to them that their children are educated. And so those parents put that pressure on their kids to be excelling in academics and doing well. And other, other cultures, other groups don't necessarily, like white Appalachians do not have it in their culture out here to that their children need to read, because a lot of them don't know how to read. And so it's just not important to them. And that doesn't mean they're stupid. it's a cultural issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't mean that white Appalachians are just biologically not as smart as Asians, but it's a conversation worth having that doesn't need to turn racist and nasty, but more so just understanding and trying to look for solutions as a whole in our country and as that pertains to public schools. Because I do think as a whole in our country, I think it's important that our people are educated.
Oh, definitely.
And because it is in other countries. Why shouldn't it be here? We spend all this money, tax dollars spend all this money for public education, and I want to, people, okay, the uneducated people, they're just not going to get very good jobs. Well, I think that's really sad, but even so, when I go to McDonald's, I would like it if that person was educated enough to have a conversation with me.
Exactly.
And I think that that's the purpose of the public school system, is to have a baseline level of education for everybody, and it is failing in so many different places. I know Tennessee isn't the only place. I know Arizona is not the only place. I'm sure every state, parents and teachers would say, oh my gosh, the schools here suck.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that everywhere I've gone.
Yeah, me too.
So, exactly. The teachers' union should be more focused on the actual academics and improving, those scores and outcomes of children way, way over any of this other stuff. Yeah. Should not even be on their radar. Leave that to the parents, leave that to the counselors. Yeah. It's not for the teachers. Yeah. Teachers need to be focusing on what they're there to do, which is to teach your children, how to
math, reading, social
writing,
all these different things.
All those things. And they're not even doing that well enough, so the last thing they need is a distraction from that.
Yeah, they're gonna have a pronouns class next or something like.
Oh, I'm sure that's already happening.
It's crazy.
Well, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, me too. It's a nice discussion.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in for another
episode,
and we'll see you guys on Friday.
See you on Friday. Bye.
Bye.